The chapel door creaks open, and every head turns. I can feel their eyes on me like a spotlight. Except this time, there's no applause, no warm welcome. Just silence. My shoes squeak against the wet floor as I step inside, rain dripping from my coat onto the polished wood. It smells like damp earth and old memories here, but all I can focus on is the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Mom gasps, her hand flying to cover her mouth. Ben freezes mid-sentence at the podium, his face pale, jaw clenched so tight it looks like it might crack. And behind me, Mr. Grayson, the lawyer, clears his throat, clutching an envelope that feels heavier than lead. I didn't plan for this moment to go like this. I thought showing up would fix things, bring us back together after years of broken promises and misunderstandings. Instead, I've walked into a nightmare. The air is thick with tension, pressing down on me until I can barely breathe. Every second stretches out like hours, each one filled with unspoken accusations and raw emotion. Am I too late? Did I make the biggest mistake of my life by coming here? If you want to know how far love can stretch before it breaks, and whether forgiveness is even possible, you need to stick around. Follow this channel because every story we tell will leave you questioning what you do when faced with impossible choices. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Let me tell you about us, about me. My name's Callie Harper, and if I had to sum myself up in one word, it'd be reckless. Not the fun kind either, the kind that leaves scars. At 31, I've spent most of my life running, from fights, from feelings, from anything that felt too heavy to carry. But here's the thing about running. You can't outrun yourself forever. And now, standing in this chapel with everyone staring at me like I'm a ghost, I realize just how far I've pushed people away. Mom's sitting near the front, her hands trembling as she grips a tissue. She's always been the glue holding our family together, even when we didn't deserve it. Her hair is streaked with gray now, but her eyes are still sharp enough to cut right through me. She's fragile, yes, but there's steel underneath. She blames me for disappearing 5 years ago without so much as a goodbye. Honestly, she's not wrong. I left because I couldn't handle Dad's anger anymore, the way he'd look at me like I was a problem he couldn't solve. Back then, I told myself I was protecting them by leaving. Now, looking at Mom's face, I wonder if I was really just protecting myself. Then there's Ben, my older brother. He's leaning against the wall, arms crossed, trying to look tough. But I know him better than that. Beneath the sarcasm and the smirk, he's drowning. Losing Dad hit him harder than he lets on, and seeing me here, it's like ripping open an old wound. Ben has always been the fixer, the one who steps in when things get messy. Problem is, some messes can't be fixed. That's something we're both learning the hard way. And Dad? Well, Dad's gone now. Or at least, that's what they thought until I showed up alive. He wasn't perfect. In fact, he could be downright cruel. But he loved us in his own twisted way. Cutting me out of his will wasn't just about money. It was his way of saying, "You don't exist to me anymore." Harsh? Absolutely. But also devastatingly effective. It made me question everything. Who am I without my family? Am I even worth fighting for? Behind me stands Mr. Grayson, the lawyer. He's quiet, almost invisible. But there's something about the way he holds that envelope, like it contains the secrets to our undoing. His presence reminds me why I'm here, to set things right, or at least try. Except now, with everyone looking at me like I'm a stranger, I'm starting to wonder if coming back was a mistake. These are the people I call family. Broken, flawed, human. And somehow, despite all the pain, they're still the ones I want to fight for. Because deep down, isn't that what family is? A messy, beautiful collision of love and hurt that you can't walk away from, even when you try? Stay tuned, because this story isn't just about mending fences, it's about finding out who you are when everything falls apart. The chapel feels like it's breathing, alive with the weight of everything unsaid. The air is thick, heavy with the mingling scents of damp wood and lilies. Flowers I hate, but somehow everyone insists on bringing to funerals. They're everywhere, their cloying sweetness clinging to my clothes, making it hard to breathe. Outside, rain taps against the stained glass windows in a steady rhythm, each drop tracing paths down the panes like tears unwilling to stop. Inside, candlelight flickers weakly against the walls, casting shadows that dance across the high ceilings. It's warm. Not comforting warm, but stifling, like being wrapped in a wool blanket you can't shake off. The wooden pews groan under the weight of bodies shifting uncomfortably, the sound blending with hushed whispers and muffled sobs. Someone's heels click against the floor, sharp and deliberate, slicing through the tension like a knife. Every noise echoes here, amplified by the silence no one wants to break. I stand near the back, clutching my coat tighter around me, as if it could shield me from the stares boring into me. My shoes squeak with every small movement, drawing more attention than I want. The marble beneath my feet is cold, unyielding, mirroring how I feel inside. Brittle, like I might shatter at any moment. Somewhere in the distance, a clock ticks, slow and methodical, reminding me that time isn't waiting for me to catch up. Up front, there's an open casket draped with white flowers, though thankfully it's empty. Seeing that emptiness hits harder than I expected. It's a cruel reminder of why I'm here, why they thought I was gone. Above it all hangs a crucifix, its golden surface catching the light, casting faint glimmers across the room. For a second, I wonder if anyone else notices how ironic it feels. All this ceremony for someone who isn't even dead. But what gets me most is the quiet, not the peaceful kind, the suffocating kind, where every breath feels too loud, every heartbeat too fast. It presses down on me, forcing me to confront the reality I've been avoiding. These people aren't just strangers anymore. They're family. And whether I like it or not, this place, this moment, is where I belong. This isn't just a setting, it's a character in its own right, shaping everything we say and don't say. Trust me, once you step into this world, you won't be able to look away. Stay tuned to uncover how far love and forgiveness can stretch when faced with impossible truths. You ever feel like your life splits into two versions? The one you're living and the one you wish you could erase? That's me right now, standing in this chapel, torn between who I was and who I want to be. The problem isn't just that Dad cut me out of his will, or that my family thinks I'm dead. It's bigger than that. It's about the choices I made, the fights I didn't finish, the words I never said. And now here I am, trying to fix something that feels so broken, it might not even be worth saving. The truth is, I left because staying hurt too much. Dad had this way of looking at me like I wasn't enough, like everything I did was wrong. He'd yell over dinner, criticize my choices, tell me I'd never amount to anything. So when he threw those words at me 5 years ago, "If you're gonna act dead to us, then legally why not?" I took them literally. I disappeared. No note, no call, nothing. Just packed a bag and ran as far away as I could. At the time it felt easier than facing him, than fighting for myself. But running doesn't solve anything. It just postpones the pain. Now I'm back, and the weight of all those years crashes down on me like an avalanche. What makes it worse is knowing how much they suffered without me. Mom wrote letters she thought I'd never read, pouring her heart onto paper while blaming herself for my absence. Ben tried to hold things together, but ended up drowning under the pressure. And Dad kept his secrets until the day he died. Secrets like Elena Vega, whose name showed up in the will alongside mine. A woman none of us knew existed. How do you even begin to process something like that? Betrayal cuts deep, but betrayal after death. That's a whole other level of cruel. Now I'm stuck between two worlds. The family who feels betrayed by me, and the stranger who claims part of what used to be ours. Do I fight for the house, the home, that holds every memory we have left of Dad? Or do I let go and walk away again, sparing myself the agony of confronting the wreckage we've become? Every decision feels like stepping onto thin ice, waiting for the crack that'll send me plunging into freezing water. And then there's the lawyer, Mr. Grayson, standing quietly behind me with that damn envelope. Inside are answers, or maybe more questions. Either way, opening it changes everything. What if it confirms what I already fear? That our family was never as solid as I thought? That the foundation we built was cracked from the start? What happens when you realize the person you idolized, resented, loved, isn't who you thought they were? Here's the thing. Forgiveness sounds great in theory, but it's messy in practice. It requires facing pain head-on, admitting fault, letting go of grudges. Can I do that? Can we do that? Because the alternative, walking away again, feels like giving up. And maybe I'm selfish, but I don't think I can handle losing them twice. So here's my question to you. If you found yourself in my shoes, what would you do? Would you fight for a family that feels broken beyond repair? Or would you turn around and run, hoping distance heals wounds that time can't touch? This story isn't just mine, it's yours too. Stick around, because the hardest decisions are still ahead. And trust me, you won't see the twists coming. You know that moment when you realize the ground beneath your feet isn't as solid as you thought. That's exactly what happens after. The funeral, when I'm standing in the parking lot trying to catch my breath and failing miserably. The rain has slowed to a drizzle now, but it still clings to everything, making the world feel heavier somehow. My family is huddled near Dad's old car, whispering among themselves, avoiding looking at me like I'm some kind of ghost they can't exorcise. And then Mom steps forward, her face pale and drawn, eyes red from crying. "Callie," she says, her voice trembling. "You shouldn't have come." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut, knocking the air right out of me. For a second, I think she might slap me, or maybe hug me. But instead, she just stands there, shaking her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Do you have any idea what this did to us? Thinking you were gone? Thinking we'd lost you forever?" She takes a step closer, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. "We buried you, Callie. We mourned you. How could you do that to us?" I open my mouth to explain, to tell her about the fights with Dad, about how suffocating it felt to stay. But the words die before they leave my lips. Because deep down, I know she's right. I did abandon them. Sure, I had my reasons I convinced myself were valid, but none of that matters now. All they see is someone who walked away without a word, leaving them to pick up the pieces. Guilt crashes over me like a wave, pulling me under until I can barely breathe. Ben finally speaks up, his voice sharp and bitter. "You're unbelievable. You know that? 5 years, Callie. 5 freaking years and not one call, not one letter. Nothing. And now you show up here like some hero. Like you're gonna fix everything by just being alive?" He laughs, but it's hollow, filled with anger and hurt. Newsflash, you can't. Some things are too broken to fix. Their words sting worse than anything I've ever felt, because they're true. I left because staying was hard. Because facing Dad felt impossible. Because running seemed easier than fighting. But now, standing here, I realize how selfish I was. Running didn't just hurt me, it shattered them. And no amount of apologies can undo that. The worst part? They won't even listen. Every time I try to speak, they cut me off, drowning me in accusations and blame. Ben storms off, slamming the car door behind him. Mom turns away, wiping her tears, refusing to meet my eyes. Even Mr. Grayson, who's been hovering nearby like a shadow, looks uncomfortable, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. Maybe give them time, he murmurs quietly, though it doesn't sound convincing. Not to him, not to me. Time. That's all anyone ever talks about, isn't it? As if time magically fixes everything. But what if it doesn't? What if the cracks run too deep, the wounds too raw? What if I've already ruined whatever chance we had at fixing this mess? And then there's the will, the elephant in the room, that no one wants to talk about, yet everyone keeps circling around. Whispers follow me wherever I go, half-formed sentences that trail off when I approach. Elena Vega becomes a name whispered like a curse, a reminder of secrets Dad kept hidden even in death. Who is she? Why does she matter so much? Why? Does her name make Mom flinch every time someone says it? These questions gnaw at me, keeping me awake at night, haunting me like ghosts. But here's the thing. Crises don't wait for answers. Life keeps moving, whether you're ready or not. So while I'm stuck reeling from Mom's rejection and Ben's anger, another problem barrels toward me like a freight train. Elena shows up unannounced at my hotel the next day, holding a photo of Dad I've never seen before. She's younger than I expected, soft-spoken but fierce, with eyes that seem to look straight through me. "We need to talk," she says simply, sitting across from me like she belongs there. Except she doesn't. Not really. Not in my world. Every instinct tells me to shut her out, to protect what little remains of my fragile family. But something about her stops me. Maybe it's the way she holds that photo, like it's precious. Maybe it's the sadness in her voice when she talks about Dad. Or maybe it's the realization that she's just as lost as I am, searching for answers in a puzzle neither of us fully understands. This is where the story gets messy, where lines blur and loyalties shift. Because now I'm caught between two families, one I abandoned and one I don't even know. Both want something from me, both demand sacrifices I'm not sure I can give. And as much as I want to believe I can fix this, I can't shake the feeling that I'm standing on quicksand, sinking deeper with every choice I make. So tell me, if you were me, what would you do? Would you turn your back on the people who raised you, or risk losing them completely to help a stranger? Either way, someone gets hurt. And trust me, the hardest decisions are still ahead. Stay tuned, because this story only gets more complicated from here. For a moment, it feels like maybe, just maybe, we're going to be okay. After days of silence and tension, Ben finally corners me outside the hotel where I've been staying. He looks tired, shadows under his eyes betraying sleepless nights, but there's something softer in his expression now, like he's letting his guard down for the first time since I got back. "We need to talk," he says, motioning toward a bench tucked beneath an overhang dripping with leftover rainwater. His tone isn't angry anymore. It's cautious, hesitant. For once, he doesn't seem ready to fight. Sitting there beside him, I brace myself for another round of accusations or blame, but instead, he pulls out a stack of letters from inside his jacket. They're worn, edges frayed like they've been handled too many times. "Mom kept these," he explains quietly, handing them over without looking at me. "She wrote them after you disappeared. Thought you'd never read them." My hands tremble as I take the bundle, my throat tightening before I even open the first envelope. Inside, Mom's handwriting spills across the page, messy and rushed, raw with emotion. She writes about missing me, about regretting every harsh word she ever said, about wishing she could turn back time and fix everything. It's overwhelming. All that love, all that pain, poured into words meant for someone who wasn't there to hear them. By the third letter, tears are streaming down my face, blurring the ink. Ben watches silently, arms crossed, jaw tight. But there's no judgment in his gaze. Just sadness. And when I finally look up at him, voice shaking, and say, "I didn't know. I had no idea," He nods stiffly, like he already figured that much. That night, we sit together in his apartment, surrounded by half-empty coffee, cups and old photos we haven't looked at in years. For the first time since I came back, it feels like we're us again, the fractured pieces of our family coming together, however imperfectly. We laugh through tears, sharing memories of Dad that make us both wince and smile. It's not perfect. It's messy and awkward and full of pauses where none of us quite know what to say. But it's progress. A fragile kind of peace settles over us, tentative but real. Even Elena seems less intimidating now. When I meet her the next day, I bring the letters Mom wrote, showing her how much losing me affected our family. To my surprise, she softens, her defenses cracking just enough to let me see the person underneath. She talks about Dad, not as the man who left secrets behind, but as someone who tried, and often failed, to show love in his own complicated way. There's a shared understanding between us now, a quiet acknowledgement that neither of us asked for this mess, but both of us are stuck in it anyway. For the first time, I start to believe we might actually get through this, together. But then Mr. Grayson shows up unannounced, interrupting our fragile truce. He clears his throat nervously, clutching yet another envelope like it holds the weight of the world. "There's more," he says, his voice low, almost apologetic. Something about the way he says it sends a chill running down my spine. More? What else could possibly be lurking in Dad's shadowy legacy? As he hands me the envelope, I can't help but wonder, is this peace we've found just a mirage? A temporary calm before the storm hits again? What if whatever's inside shatters everything we've worked so hard to rebuild? Because deep down, I know one thing for sure. The hardest truths are still waiting to come out. And trust me, you won't see this next twist coming. Just when I think we're starting to patch things up, the ground shifts again. Harder this time, throwing everything into chaos. It's late afternoon when Mr. Grayson finally spills what's inside that envelope, and it's worse than anything I could have imagined. He reads aloud, his voice steady but strained, like he knows exactly how much damage these words are about to do. "Your father didn't just leave Elena custody of certain assets," he says, pausing for a beat too long. "He left her custody of you." The room tilts. My stomach drops like I've been shoved off a cliff. Custody of me. What does that even mean? I stare at him, waiting for the punchline, but there isn't one. Instead, Elena sits across from me, clutching the photo of Dad like it's a lifeline, her face pale but resolute. "I'm your half-sister," she whispers, so softly I almost miss it. Her eyes lock onto mine, searching for something. Recognition, acceptance, anger, anything. But all I feel is numb. The air thickens, pressing down on me until I can barely breathe. This changes everything. Absolutely everything. If Elena's my sister, then Mom knew. She must have. All those years of silence, of pretending Dad was perfect, it was a lie. A massive, suffocating lie built on betrayal and secrets. I can't process it fast enough. My brain scrambles to catch up, but every thought feels like it's slipping through my fingers. How could Dad do this? How could Mom live with it? And why now? Why drag us all into this mess after he's gone? Ben reacts first, exploding out of his chair like it's on fire. "You've got to be kidding me," he shouts, pacing the room like a caged animal. "This is insane. First Callie shows up out of nowhere, and now this." He stops suddenly, pointing a finger at Elena. "Who even are you? You show up here acting like you belong, like you're part of our family, but you're not. You're nobody." His voice cracks on the last word, raw with pain and frustration. For a moment, no one speaks. The silence is deafening, broken only by the sound of rain tapping against the window. Elena doesn't flinch. She meets Ben's glare head-on, her voice calm but firm. "I didn't ask for any of this," she says. "But I'm here now, and whether you like it or not, we're connected. Running away won't change that." Her words hit like a slap, sharp and unyielding. Ben opens his mouth to argue, but nothing comes out. He sinks back into his chair, defeated, running a hand over, his face like he's trying to erase the last 5 minutes. Mom arrives later, summoned by some unspoken signal none of us noticed sending. She takes one look at the scene, the scattered papers, the tension crackling in the air, and freezes. Her eyes dart between me, Ben, and Elena, landing, finally, on the photo still clutched in Elena's hands. Recognition flashes across her face, followed quickly by guilt. Heavy, crushing guilt. "You know," she says quietly, her voice trembling. "You always knew." Then she turns to me, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I wanted to tell you, Callie. I did. But your father, he made me promise. Said it would destroy us if anyone found out. Destroy us." That phrase echoes in my head, bouncing around until it loses all meaning. Isn't that exactly what's happening right now? Isn't this whole mess proof that secrets don't protect? They destroy? I want to scream, to demand answers, to shake her until she gives me something solid to hold on to. But instead, I sit there, frozen, watching as the foundation of my entire life crumbles beneath me. Later, alone in my hotel room, I replay the day over and over in my mind, searching for clarity, but finding only more questions. Who am I now? Knowing what I know? Am I still Callie Harper, daughter of Robert and Margaret Harper? Or am I someone else entirely, a product of lies and betrayals I didn't choose? And what happens next? Because one thing's for sure, this revelation isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something far bigger, far messier, and infinitely more painful. So here's the question keeping me awake tonight. If forgiveness starts with truth, how do you forgive when the truth feels like a weapon aimed straight at your heart? Trust me, you'll want to stay tuned for what comes next. You ever reach a point where every choice feels wrong? Like no matter which way you turn, someone gets hurt? That's where I am now, stuck between two impossible paths, each one pulling me in opposite directions. Elena shows up at my hotel the next morning, holding another stack of papers. This time, they're not letters or photos. They're legal documents, detailing Dad's instructions for custody. She won't say much about them, just hands them over with this look in her eyes that makes my stomach twist. "Read these," she says quietly, sitting down across from me. "Then decide what you want to do." I don't know why she trusts me enough to let me choose, but part of me hates her for it. Because once I start reading, I realize exactly how complicated things have become. According to Dad's will, Elena has control over decisions related to his estate, including the family home, the house where we grew up, where Mom still lives. If I fight her on this, if I push back against whatever plan she has, it means dragging Mom through court battles and public humiliation. It means airing our dirty laundry for everyone to see. But if I don't fight, then what? Let her take the house? Walk away without even trying? And here's the kicker. Buried deep in the fine print is a clause about me. Dad left specific instructions regarding my care, as though I'm some kind of child who needs guidance. Apparently, Elena has final say over certain aspects of my life, things like financial decisions and property rights. It's paternalistic, infuriating, and completely absurd. Who does he think he is, dictating my future from beyond the grave? And why would he trust her, a woman I barely know, with something so personal? The more I read, the angrier I get. Not just at Dad, but at myself. Why didn't I stay? Why did I run when things got hard, leaving behind the people who needed me most? Maybe none of this would have happened if I'd been brave enough to face him, to stand my ground instead of disappearing. Guilt claws at me, sharp and relentless, reminding me that I played a role in creating this mess. Elena watches me silently, waiting for my reaction. When I finally look up, tears streaming down my face. She reaches out hesitantly, like she wants to comfort me but isn't sure she should. "I didn't ask for this," she murmurs again, her voice breaking. "But I can't walk away either. He made me promise." Her words trail off, unfinished. But I hear them anyway. "He made me promise to protect you." Protect me? From what? From him? From myself? Or maybe just from the truth? Whatever it is, I don't want her protection. I want answers. I want justice. I want someone, anyone, to tell me how to fix this without losing everything. That night, I sit alone in my room, staring at the ceiling while replaying every conversation I've had since coming back. Ben's anger, Mom's guilt, Elena's quiet determination. All of it swirls together in my head, forming a storm that refuses to settle. There's no easy solution here, no clear path forward. If I side with Elena, I risk alienating my family, the people who raised me, flawed as they are. But if I turn my back on her, I'm walking away from blood. Literally. She's my sister. Doesn't that mean something? It's not just about the house anymore. It's about loyalty, about identity, about deciding who I am and where I belong. Do I prioritize the family I've always known, imperfect and broken though they may be? Or do I embrace this new reality, however painful it might be, because running away hasn't worked for me yet? Either way, someone loses. And honestly, I don't know if I can handle being the one responsible for breaking anyone else. Here's the thing. Forgiveness sounds great in theory, but it's messy in practice. It requires facing pain head-on, admitting fault, letting go of grudges. Can I forgive Dad for what he did? For cutting me out? For lying? For making me question everything I thought I knew about myself? Can I forgive Mom for keeping his secrets? Can I forgive Elena for showing up and turning my world upside down? And here's the hardest question of all. If you were me, what would you do? Would you fight for the family you've always had, even if it means rejecting the one you just found? Or would you risk everything to build bridges with someone who shares your DNA but not your history? Because trust me, there's no right answer here. Only choices and consequences. Stay tuned, because the decisions I make next aren't just going to change my life. They're going to redefine it. And believe me, you won't see the fallout coming. By now, I'm running on fumes. Emotionally, mentally, physically. The weight of everything feels unbearable, like carrying a boulder uphill only to have it roll back down and crush me. But then comes the call that pushes everything over the edge. It's Elena again, her voice trembling with urgency. "They're selling the house," she blurts out before I can even say hello. My heart stops. Just like that, the stakes skyrocket, and suddenly, there's no more time to think, no more room for hesitation. Everything is moving too fast, spinning out of control. "The auction's in 3 days," she continues, her words tumbling over each other. "If we don't stop it, Mom loses everything. The house, the memories, all of it." Her tone shifts, harder now, almost desperate. "Callie, you have to decide. Are you with me or against me? Because if you're not helping, I'm doing this alone." 3 days. 3 days. That's all the time I have to figure out how to save the one place that still feels like home, or watch it slip away forever. Except it's not just about the house anymore. It's about what it represents. Stability, roots, family. If we lose it, It's like losing Dad all over again. And maybe even losing ourselves. I call Ben first, hoping he'll understand, but he doesn't pick up. Instead, I get his voicemail, a robotic voice telling me to leave a message after the tone. I hang up without saying anything because what could I possibly say? Hey, by the way, the house is being sold, and oh yeah, remember that woman who showed up claiming she's our half-sister? Turns out she has legal power over everything. Yeah, right. He'd never believe me anyway. Next, I go to Mom. She's sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a cup of tea that's long gone cold. When I tell her about the auction, she doesn't react. Not at first. Then slowly, painfully, she starts shaking her head, tears streaming down her face. I should have fought harder, she whispers, her voice cracking. I should have stopped him. None of this would have happened if I'd just... She trails off, unable to finish the thought. Watching her unravel makes my chest tighten, guilt pressing down on me like a vice. But here's the thing. Guilt doesn't solve problems. Action does. And right now, action means going toe-to-toe with Elena, whether I like it or not. So later that night, I meet her at a diner near the courthouse. She looks exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back into a messy ponytail. For once, she doesn't seem so put together, so sure of herself. Sitting across from her, I realize something I didn't want to admit before. She's just as scared as I am. You really think this is what Dad wanted? I ask her, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. Dragging us through hell even after. He's gone? Making us fight over scraps while he sits somewhere laughing at how messed up we are? Elena flinches but doesn't back down. I don't know what he wanted, she admits quietly. All I know is that he trusted me to handle. This, to protect you, to protect all of us. Her hands grip the edge of the table like she's holding on for dear life. I didn't choose this, Callie, but neither did you. We're stuck, okay? So instead of pointing fingers, maybe we should figure out how to fix it. Fix it. Easy for her to say. Fixing things requires trust, and trust is the one thing I don't have left to give. Not to her, not to anyone. Every instinct tells me to walk away, to let her deal with the fallout while I distance myself from the chaos. But then I picture Mom packing boxes, leaving behind decades of memories. I picture Ben shutting everyone out, retreating further into his anger. And I realize I can't run this time. Not again. Running won't save them. It'll destroy them. The next morning, I find Mr. Grayson waiting outside my hotel. He hands me another envelope, because apparently, the universe thinks I haven't had enough drama yet. Inside are documents detailing Dad's final wishes, instructions to sell the house unless both Elena and I agree otherwise. Which means the decision isn't hers alone, it's ours, together. If we can't come to an agreement within 72 hours, the auction goes ahead as planned. Great. Just great. Now I'm forced to work with someone I barely know, someone whose very existence challenges everything I thought I understood about my family. Worse, I have to do it knowing that failure isn't an option. Losing the house means losing Mom, losing Ben, losing whatever fragile connection we've managed to rebuild since I came back. Failure means letting Dad win, even in death. So here's where I'm at. 2 sisters, 1 house, 0 trust between us. Every conversation feels like walking on eggshells, every compromise like swallowing poison. Elena wants to keep the house, arguing that it's the only way to preserve Dad's legacy. I want to sell it, convinced that keeping it will only drag us deeper into the mess he created. Neither of us is willing to budge, and the clock keeps ticking, relentless and unforgiving. Here's the question keeping me up at night. When you're backed into a corner with no good options, how far are you willing to go to protect the people you love? Would you sacrifice your pride, your principles, your peace of mind, Or would you hold on to those things, even if it costs you everything else? Because one thing's for sure, the hardest decisions are still ahead. And trust me, you won't see the twist coming. Stay tuned. The hours leading up to the auction feel like they're stretching into infinity, each minute heavier than the last. Elena and I are holed up in a cramped conference room at the courthouse, surrounded by stacks of papers, half-empty coffee cups, and the kind of tension that could snap at any moment. She's pacing back and forth, her heels clicking against the floor in a rhythm that's driving me insane. Every so often, she stops to glance at the clock, then resumes her march, muttering under her breath about timelines and legal loopholes. Meanwhile, I'm sitting at the table, staring blankly at the documents spread out in front of me, trying and failing to make sense of them. We've been arguing for hours. No, not arguing. Fighting. Fighting over what to do with the house, over whose fault this is, over how much Dad screwed us all up without even being here to defend himself. You don't get it, Elena says sharply, slamming her hand on the table. This isn't just about you or your family. This is about him, about honoring what he wanted. Her voice cracks on the last word, betraying the anger she's been hiding behind since we met. Honoring him? I shoot back, my own voice rising. Are you kidding me? Everything he did was selfish. Cutting me out, lying to Mom, dragging you into this mess. None of it was about us. It was about control, about making sure we couldn't move on without him pulling the strings. The words come out harsher than I mean them to, but I can't. Stop now. Not when everything feels like it's falling apart. Elena freezes, her eyes narrowing. And running away made it better? Disappearing for 5 years, letting everyone think you were dead. That was supposed to fix things? I open my mouth to respond, but nothing comes out. Because she's right. Running didn't fix anything. If anything, it made everything worse. But admitting that doesn't change the fact that I'm still stuck here, forced to clean up his mess while he gets to rest peacefully in some cemetery plot. It's not fair. None of it is fair. The silence between us is suffocating, broken only by the sound of distant footsteps echoing down the hallway outside. Finally, Elena exhales sharply and sinks into the chair across from me. Look, she says, her tone softer now, almost pleading. I don't want to fight anymore. Neither do you. We both know that. So let's focus on what matters, saving the house. After that, we can figure out the rest. But focusing is easier said than done. With every passing second, the pressure mounts, pressing down on me until I feel like I might crack. What if we can't agree in time? What if the auction goes through and Mom loses the only home she's ever known? What if Ben shuts us all out completely, refusing to forgive either of us for dragging him into this nightmare? And what about Elena? What happens to her if I walk away? Do I really have the right to turn my back on someone who shares my blood, no matter how complicated things are? Every question leads to another, spiraling endlessly until I can barely breathe. My hands shake as I pick up one of the documents, scanning the fine print for the 100th time. There has to be something we're missing, a loophole, a clause, anything that gives us more time. But the truth is glaringly obvious. There isn't. The deadline is set, and unless we find a way to work together, we're going to lose everything. That night, I lie awake in bed, staring at the ceiling while replaying every conversation, every argument, every moment since I came back. I think about Mom, sitting alone in that house, holding on to memories that aren't enough to keep her grounded anymore. I think about Ben, retreating further into himself because he doesn't know how to deal with pain. And I think about Elena, standing in the middle of it all, caught between two worlds she never asked to belong to. Here's the thing. Decisions. Like this. They don't just affect you. They ripple outward, touching everyone around you whether you intend them to or not. Choosing to sell the house means letting go of the past. But is that bravery or cowardice. Keeping it means holding on, fighting for something worth preserving. But at what cost? How do you weigh the value of memories against the weight of reality? And here's the question I need you to sit with. If you were me, staring down the barrel of a decision that could shatter lives, including your own, what would you choose? Would you cling to the familiar, hoping it'll somehow heal the wounds you're too afraid to face? Or would you take a leap of faith, trusting that letting go might actually set you free? Because trust me, the answer isn't simple. In fact, it's anything but. And once you hear what happens next, you'll understand why this story isn't just about a house. It's about love, forgiveness, and the lengths we'll go to protect the people who matter most. Stick around because the final twist will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Follow this channel to uncover how far redemption can stretch before it breaks, and why some fights are worth losing. The morning of the auction dawns cold and gray, the kind of day that feels like it's conspiring against you. Elena and I arrive at the courthouse early, our footsteps echoing in the empty hallways as we make our way to the hearing room. Neither of us speaks. There's nothing left to say. Every argument, every plea, every desperate attempt to find common ground has already been exhausted. Now it's just us, standing side by side but worlds apart, waiting for the gavel to fall. When the doors open, the room fills quickly with strangers, lawyers, real estate agents, curious onlookers, all eager to watch the drama unfold. Mom sits in the front row, clutching her purse like it's a lifeline, her face pale and drawn. Ben's next to her, arms crossed, jaw clenched so tight I'm afraid he might crack a tooth. He won't look at me. He hasn't looked at me since last night, when I begged him to understand that this decision wasn't easy, that I was trying to do what was best for all of us. Best for who? He'd snapped, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. You? Her? Dad's ghost? Newsflash, Callie. None of this is about us anymore. His words haunt me now as I take my seat beside Elena, the weight of them settling heavily on my shoulders. Across the room, Mr. Grayson stands near the judge's bench, shuffling papers and avoiding eye contact. Even he seems uneasy, like he knows how badly this could end. The air is thick with tension, pressing down on me until I can barely breathe. My heart pounds in my chest, each beat louder than the last, drowning out the murmurs around us. Finally, the judge enters, calling the room to order. The proceedings begin, a blur of legal jargon and formalities that feel miles away from the raw emotions boiling beneath the surface. When it's my turn to speak, I stand up slowly, my legs trembling beneath me. All eyes are on me, expectant, judgmental, waiting to see which side I'll choose. Do I fight for the house, or let it go? My voice falters, cracking under the weight of everything unsaid. I clear my throat and try again. I don't think selling the house is the right move. The words come out softer than I intend, but they hang in the air anyway, heavy and final. Elena stiffens beside me, her breath catching audibly. From the corner of my eye, I see Ben shake his head, disgusted, while Mom covers her mouth with her hand, tears streaming down her face. Before anyone can respond, Elena jumps to her feet, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Your Honor," she begins, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "The house isn't just property. It's a piece of our father's legacy. Selling it would mean erasing him completely, throwing away everything he worked for." She glances at me briefly, her expression pleading. Callie doesn't understand what this means to me, to us. Her words hit like a punch to the gut, knocking the wind out of me. Us. She keeps saying that word, like it's supposed to mean something. But does it? Are we really an us? Or is she just another person trying to claim a piece of a family that never felt whole to begin with? The judge listens patiently, nodding occasionally as Elena makes her case. Then it's my turn again. This time, I don't hesitate. With all due respect, I say, my voice stronger now, fueled by anger and frustration and years of pent-up emotion. This isn't about honoring Dad. It's about control. About forcing us to relive his mistakes instead of letting us heal. Keeping the house won't fix anything. It'll trap us here, stuck in the past, unable to move forward. Elena stares at me, stunned, her mouth opening and closing like she wants to argue but can't find the words. For a moment, the room is completely silent, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. And then, unexpectedly, Mom stands, up. Her hands are shaking, her voice barely above a whisper, but everyone turns to look at her anyway. Enough, she says firmly, surprising even herself. This fighting, it needs to stop. Robert's gone and no amount of arguing will bring him back. What matters now is taking care of each other, not his house, not his money, us. Her words hang in the air, breaking through the chaos like sunlight piercing a storm cloud. Slowly, one by one, the others lower their heads, ashamed. Even the judge seems affected, pausing before speaking. Given the circumstances, she says finally, I suggest a recess. Take some time to reconsider your positions before making a final decision. As the room clears, I find myself alone with Elena in the hallway outside. Neither of us moves. Neither of us speaks. We're both too tired, too drained to keep fighting. Finally, she breaks the silence. Do you ever wonder, she asks quietly, her voice trembling, if we'll ever stop hating him for what he did? I don't answer right away. Instead, I think about all the pain, all the secrets, all the lies that brought us here. About Dad, whose love was messy and complicated but still real. About Mom, who carried the weight of his choices without complaint. About Ben, who lashes out because he doesn't know how else to cope. And about me, who ran when staying felt impossible. No, I say finally, meeting her gaze. I don't hate him. I'm angry, sure, but hate, that's too easy. Hate doesn't fix anything. For the first time, Elena smiles. A small, sad smile, but a smile nonetheless. Then maybe we start there, she says softly, with forgiveness. Not for him, but for us. In that moment, standing there amidst the wreckage of everything we thought we knew, I realized something important. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing to move forward, together, even when the path ahead is uncertain. And sometimes, that's enough. But trust me, the biggest twist is still coming. Stay tuned, because this story isn't over yet. Just as Elena and I are starting to find some fragile common ground, the courthouse doors burst open with a force that makes everyone turn. A man strides in, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a leather jacket and boots scuffed from years of use. He looks out of place among the suits and polished shoes, but there's no mistaking the intensity in his eyes or the way he moves like he owns the room. For a moment, I don't recognize him. Then it hits me. It's Jake Harper, Dad's brother, my uncle, the one nobody talks about. Jake hasn't been seen in over a decade, not since Dad cut him out of the family business after some blowout fight neither of them ever explained. Rumors swirled back then, about money, betrayal, pride. But eventually, people stopped asking questions. Seeing him here now feels like stepping into an alternate reality, one where ghosts rise from the past to settle old scores. What the hell is he doing here? Ben mutters under his breath, standing abruptly. His face flushes red, fists clenched at his sides like he's ready to throw a punch. Mom grabs his arm, trying to pull him back down, but he shrugs her off, glaring daggers at Jake. Relax, kid, Jake says, holding up his hands in mock surrender. His voice is rough, tinged with sarcasm, but there's something else beneath it, urgency. I'm not here to cause trouble." He turns to the judge, ignoring the rest of us. "Your Honor, if I may." Without waiting for permission, he pulls out a folder and slams it onto the bench. These documents prove Robert's will is invalid. The room erupts into chaos. Lawyers scramble, voices overlap, and even the judge looks stunned. I glance at Elena, whose face has gone white, her knuckles turning pale as she grips the edge of her chair. "What does that mean?" I whisper, though I already suspect the answer. "It means," Jake says, addressing me directly now, his tone sharp enough to silence the room, "that everything Robert left behind, the house, the money, the so-called custody arrangements, never should have happened. Turns out your old man wasn't exactly honest when he signed those papers." My stomach drops. Invalid? How? Why? Before I can process what he's saying, Jake steps closer, lowering his voice so only I can hear. He forged my signature on the legal agreements, made it look like I approved all this mess before cutting me loose. Thought he could erase me. Completely, huh? There's bitterness in his words, but also pain. A raw, unspoken hurt that mirrors my own. Elena stands suddenly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You're lying," she accuses, her voice trembling. "If any of this were true, why wait until now to say something?" Jake smirks, crossing his arms. "Because I didn't know about it until last week. Found the evidence buried in some old files while clearing out storage. Guess Robbie thought I'd never find it, or care enough to do anything about it." His smirk fades, replaced by something harder, colder. "But I do care. About the house, sure, but mostly about setting things right. Whatever Robert tried to build after pushing me out. It ends today." The judge calls for order, demanding explanations and proof, but none of it registers fully. My mind races, trying to piece together what this means for us, for Mom, for Ben, for Elena, for me. If Jake's telling the truth, and every instinct tells me he is, then everything we've fought over these past few days has been based on lies. Lies stacked upon lies, layer after layer, until the truth feels impossibly far away. And yet, maybe this isn't just another complication. Maybe it's a chance to start over, to rewrite the story Dad tried to dictate from beyond the grave. But rewriting isn't easy. Not when the ink has already dried, not when the scars run so deep. Here's the question keeping me awake tonight. When the foundation of everything you believed crumbles, how do you decide what to rebuild and what to let go? Because trust me, the answers aren't simple. In fact, they're anything but. This twist changes everything, but not in the way you'd expect. Stick around, because the fallout will leave you questioning who the real villain is in this tangled web of secrets. Follow this channel to uncover stories where nothing is ever as it seems, and every twist leaves you desperate for more. By the time the judge adjourns the hearing to review Jake's documents, the courthouse feels like a pressure cooker about to explode. Everyone scatters. Lawyers huddle in corners, whispering urgently. Mom sits frozen, her hands clasped so tightly, they've turned white. Ben paces furiously, muttering under his breath. Elena and I are left standing near the bench, staring at each other like two strangers caught in the same storm. Neither of us says anything because what can you say when the ground beneath your feet shifts so violently you're not even sure which way is up anymore? Jake lingers nearby, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, watching us all with an unreadable expression. He looks older than I remember, from the faded photos stashed in Dad's study. Lines etched into his face, gray streaking his temples. But there's still something sharp about him, something unyielding. When he catches me looking, he raises an eyebrow. "You okay, kid?" he asks, his tone softer now, almost gentle. I nod automatically, though it's a lie. How can I be okay when everything I thought I understood about my family has been ripped apart? The house, the will, Dad's secrets. It's all unraveling, thread by thread, until nothing feels solid anymore. But here's the thing. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the only way to rebuild is to tear it all down first. Later that evening, we gather at Mom's house. Not because anyone suggests it, but because it's the one place that still feels like home, even if it might not belong to us much longer. The living room is quiet, except for the occasional creak of the floorboards as someone shifts uncomfortably. No one knows quite where to start, so I do, because if there's one thing I've learned these past few weeks, it's that silence doesn't fix anything. It just lets wounds fester. I don't know what happens next, I admit, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to steady it. But I do know this. Whatever it is, we can't keep doing things Dad's way. We can't let his mistakes define us. My eyes dart around the room, meeting theirs one by one. Mom's weary gaze, Ben's guarded glare, Elena's cautious curiosity, Jake's piercing stare. He made choices, bad ones, that hurt all of us. But we're not him, and we don't have to carry that weight forever. For a moment, no one responds. Then Mom speaks, her voice barely above a whisper. Your father, he wasn't perfect. None of us are, but he loved us in his own way. She pauses, swallowing hard before continuing. Maybe loving each other means forgiving him. Not for what he did, but for ourselves. So we can move on. Her words hang in the air, heavy and fragile, like glass spun into thread. Slowly, Ben sinks onto the couch beside her, his shoulders slumping as some of the tension drains from his body. Even Jake exhales sharply, running a hand over his face like he's carrying a burden too big to put into words. Elena breaks the silence next, her voice soft but firm. If the house stays in the family, it should belong to all of us, not just one person deciding for everyone else, together. That's how we honor him, or forget him, whichever works. She glances at me, then at Jake, her expression tentative, but hopeful. What do you think? It's strange, sitting here with people who were once strangers, or worse, adversaries, and realizing they're part of me now. Blood or not, connection isn't something you choose. It's something you build, piece by broken piece. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. As the night wears on, the conversation shifts, from arguments to memories, from pain to laughter. We talk about Dad, about the good times and the bad, about the lessons we've learned from his mistakes. And somewhere along the way, I realize I'm not running anymore. Not from them, not from myself, not from the truth. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing to stay even when staying hurts. Here's the question I want you to sit with. When life forces you to confront the parts of yourself you'd rather hide, how do you find the courage to change? Because transformation isn't easy. It's messy, painful, and terrifying, but it's also beautiful. It's choosing to rise, even when falling feels safer. And trust me, once you hear how this story ends, you'll understand why sometimes the hardest battles lead to the greatest victories. Stay tuned, because the journey isn't over yet. The next morning, the judge delivers her ruling. Jake's documents are legitimate. Dad's will, everything he orchestrated from beyond the grave, is null and void. Just like that, the house is no longer up for auction. It belongs to all of us now. Or rather, it belongs to none of us individually. The weight of those words settles over the room like a balm, soothing wounds we didn't realize were still raw. For the first time in days, or maybe years, I feel something other than anger or fear. Relief. Fragile, fleeting, but real. Jake steps forward after the verdict, his hands shoved deep into his pockets, as if he's unsure what to do with himself now that the fight is over. He clears his throat, drawing everyone's attention. Look, he says gruffly. I didn't come here to play hero. I came because someone had to clean up Robbie's mess. But maybe this doesn't have to be the end of it. His gaze sweeps across the room, landing briefly on each of us before settling on Mom. Your family. Messy, screwed up family, but family nonetheless. Don't waste this second chance. His words hang in the air, heavy with meaning. Second chances. That's exactly what this is. For all of us. We file out of the courthouse slowly, stepping into the sunlight like newborns blinking at the world for the first time. The air smells different somehow. Fresher, lighter. Like the storm clouds that followed us for so long have finally broken apart. Outside, Elena hesitates, glancing at me uncertainly. So, what happens now? She asks, her voice barely above, a whisper. I don't know, I admit, smiling despite myself. But whatever it is, we figure it out together. And for once, those words don't feel hollow. They feel like a promise. Back at Mom's house, we gather around the kitchen table, the same one where countless meals and arguments and quiet moments unfolded over the years. This time, though, there's no tension, no secrets lurking beneath the surface. Just people, flawed, hurting, hopeful, trying to find their way forward. Ben cracks a joke about how terrible Mom's coffee always tastes, and for the first time in weeks, it actually gets a laugh. Even Jake manages a smirk, shaking his head like he can't believe he's stuck in the middle of this circus. As the afternoon stretches into evening, plans start taking shape. Not perfect ones, but good enough. The house will stay in the family, maintained jointly by all of us. Practical decisions follow. Who pays for repairs, how holidays will work, whether any of us actually want to live there full-time. Surprisingly, Elena volunteers to move in temporarily, helping Mom sort through decades of clutter while figuring out her own place in our patchwork family. It'll give us time to get to know each other, she says simply, shrugging when I raise an eyebrow. Besides, someone has to make sure you guys don't burn the place down. Her attempt at humor breaks the last bit of ice between us, and suddenly, it feels okay to let my guard down, to trust her, even just a little. By the time dinner rolls around, the conversation shifts naturally, flowing like it used to before everything fell apart. We talk about Dad, not idealizing him, not demonizing him, but remembering him as he really was. Complicated, imperfect, human. And somehow, talking about him without bitterness makes the loss feel less sharp, less suffocating. Later, as the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink, I step outside onto the porch. Jake joins me, lighting a cigarette and exhaling slowly. You holding up all right? He asks, his tone softer than usual. I nod, leaning against the railing as a cool breeze brushes past. Yeah, better than I thought I would be. After a pause, I add, thanks for showing up. I don't think I ever said that. He chuckles dryly, shaking his head. Don't thank me yet. Trust me, having me around comes with its own set of problems. Despite his sarcasm, there's warmth in his voice, a flicker of something unexpected, belonging. Like maybe, just maybe, he wants to stick around too. Inside, the others are laughing, their voices spilling out into the night like music. It's not perfect. It's messy, chaotic, unfinished, but it's ours. And for the first time in a long time, that's enough. Because here's the thing. Resolution isn't about tying every loose end into a neat bow. It's about finding peace amid the chaos, choosing to move forward even when the path ahead is uncertain. So here's my final question. When life gives you a second chance, however messy it might be, do you take it? Or do you let fear keep you stuck in the past? Stay tuned, because this story proves that sometimes the hardest battles lead to the greatest victories and the most beautiful beginnings. Weeks later, the house feels different, not just because of the fresh coat of paint or the clutter Mom finally let us clear out, but because of the way we've started to fill it again. Not with furniture or knickknacks, but with moments. Real ones. The kind that make you forget how broken things used to be. Mom's changed the most, I think. She's lighter somehow. Like shedding Dad's secrets has given her room to breathe for the first time in years. She spends hours in the garden now, tending to flowers she swore would never grow in this soil. It's about patience, she tells me one afternoon as we sit on the porch watching Elena wrestle with a stubborn rosebush. You can't force things to bloom before they're ready. I nod, pretending not to notice the double meaning in her words. She's talking about more than plants. She's talking about us. Elena fits into our lives easier than I expected, though it's still awkward sometimes. Like when she accidentally calls Mom Margaret instead of Mom and freezes mid-sentence. Horrified. Or when Ben refuses to share his fries at dinner and mutters something about half-sisters stealing everything. But there are good moments too. Like when she teaches me how to bake Dad's favorite pie recipe. Her hands steady over mine as she shows me the trick to getting the crust just right. He loved cinnamon, she says softly, smiling despite herself. In those small moments, I see glimpses of who she is beneath the armor. Someone searching for connection, just like the rest of us. Ben's still angry, though it's quieter now. A simmer instead of a boil. He avoids Jake whenever possible, which isn't hard since Jake mostly keeps to himself, tinkering with the old car Dad left behind. Sometimes I catch them exchanging looks across the driveway, neither willing to take the first step toward reconciliation. But last night, I heard them laughing over some dumb sports highlight on TV, their voices echoing through the open window. Progress, however slow, is progress. As for me, I'm learning to stay. That's the hardest part. Not running when things get uncomfortable, not disappearing when the weight feels too heavy. It helps that everyone seems to need me here, even if they don't say it outright. Mom asks me to help sort through photo albums, her hands trembling as she flips through faded Polaroids. Ben drags me along to pick up groceries, grumbling about how I always choose the longest line at checkout. Even Jake occasionally pulls me aside, asking questions about Dad he swears he doesn't care about. Just curious, he insists, though his eyes tell a different story. We're all carrying pieces of him, the good, the bad, the ugly. And maybe that's okay. Maybe remembering isn't about idolizing or demonizing, it's about accepting that people are complicated, and forgiving them, or ourselves, for not being perfect. One evening, we gather in the living room for pizza and bad movies, the way we used to before everything fell apart. Elena sits cross-legged on the floor, quoting lines from the screen while Ben rolls his eyes dramatically. Mom laughs so hard she cries, and even Jake cracks a smile, shaking his head like he can't believe he's stuck with us. For a moment, it feels normal. Not the fake kind of normal where everyone pretends everything's fine, but the messy, beautiful kind where imperfections are part of the picture. Afterward, I find myself alone on the porch again, staring up at the stars. Jake joins me after a while, holding out a beer without asking if I want one. You know, he says after a long silence, Robbie wasn't wrong about everything. His voice is rough, hesitant, like he's testing the words before letting them loose. He taught me how to fix engines, how to stand my ground. He wasn't perfect, but he tried, I nod, swallowing past the lump in my throat. Yeah, he did. And maybe that's enough. Maybe trying, even failing, is better than nothing at all. Here's the truth. None of us came out of this unchanged. We're scarred, sure, but also stronger, Stronger because we faced the worst parts of ourselves and didn't run, because we chose each other, even when choosing hurt. And because somewhere along the way, we realized family isn't about blood. It's about showing up, staying put, and building something worth fighting for. So here's my question to you. When life gives you a chance to rewrite your story, what do you keep, and what do you leave behind? Trust me, the answers might surprise you. Stay tuned, because this journey proves that transformation isn't easy, but it's always worth it. Looking back, I realized this whole mess taught me something I wasn't ready to hear. That forgiveness isn't about forgetting, it's about choosing to move forward anyway. It's messy and hard and doesn't come with a manual, but it's also the only way to break free from the chains of resentment and regret. Dad's secrets were like landmines buried in our lives, waiting for us to stumble into them. When they exploded, they left scars, but those scars became part of who we are now. And maybe that's the lesson here. Pain doesn't have to destroy you. Sometimes it shapes you. One of the hardest truths I've had to face is that no one gets through life unscathed. Not Mom, not Ben, not Elena, not even Jake. We all carry wounds, some visible, others hidden beneath layers of pride or silence. What matters isn't avoiding the hurt. It's learning how to heal after it happens. For so long, I thought running away was the answer, that putting distance between myself and the things that scared me would make everything okay. But running never fixed anything. It just delayed the inevitable. The problems were still there when I came back, bigger and uglier than before. Staying meant facing them head on, even when every instinct screamed at me to bolt. And then there's the idea of legacy. Dad tried to control his from beyond the grave, dictating who got what, who stayed close, who stayed away. But legacies aren't built on wills or houses. They're built on moments. On the way Mom laughs when she thinks no one's watching. On the stubborn determination Elena brings to baking pies neither of us can replicate. On the quiet moments when Ben lets his guard down long enough to admit he's scared too. Those are the things that last, the memories, not the stuff. Jake taught me something else important. Sometimes, the people who hurt you the most are the ones who need you the most. He showed up angry, bitter, unwilling to let go of the past, but underneath all that bluster was someone desperate to reconnect, to prove he mattered. Watching him try, awkwardly, imperfectly, reminded me that love doesn't always look pretty. Sometimes it looks like arguments and silences and unfinished sentences. But it's still love, and it's worth fighting for. This story mirrors real life in ways I didn't expect. Families everywhere are navigating their own versions of this chaos. Estranged siblings, parents whose mistakes linger long after they're gone, secrets that threaten to tear everything apart. None of us are immune to heartbreak or betrayal, but none of us are alone either. Somewhere out there, someone else is sitting on a porch late at night, wondering if reconciliation is possible. Someone else is staring at old photos, trying to piece together why things went wrong. Someone else is standing in front of a house full of memories, unsure whether to stay or walk away. Here's what I know for sure. Healing takes time, effort, and courage. It requires admitting fault, letting go of grudges, and leaning into discomfort instead of avoiding it. It means showing up, even when you don't feel strong enough, because showing up is half the battle. And it means trusting that second chances, messy, uncertain, beautiful, are worth taking. So here's my question to you. When life forces you to confront the parts of yourself or your relationships that you'd rather ignore, how do you find the strength to keep going? Have you ever faced a situation where forgiveness felt impossible? And if so, what helped you take the first step? Share your story in the comments. I guarantee someone out there needs to hear it. Because while our circumstances may differ, the emotions tying us together are universal. Stay tuned, because stories like these remind us we're never truly alone.